microphone, and you don't.
So you will listen to every damn word I have to say!
Hello, and welcome back to the You, Me, and the Scene podcast, brought to you by Revival Recordings. We are on episode 23, coming out this coming Monday, March 4th, which it's crazy that we're already into March.
So insane.
So we have a few topics to go through today, which I think everybody kind of likes to dabble in the topic of industry plants and throw their opinions of bands out there. First, we'll do some revival updates, though, before we deep dive into the industry plants discussion, because I know we all have opinions.
There was a specific bit of the last episode that got me thinking about at least briefly talking about this, and it's a pretty surface level deep dive that I have here, but it is worth talking about, so we'll get to that at some point.
For revival updates, when this comes out, Gold Step's new single that we mentioned on the last episode will be out, Missing Out, along with their music video. We're recording, so the music video comes out tomorrow, actually, on our recording, but I like this song, so everybody should go listen to it. It's one of my favorites.
Yeah,
first new music since first new original music since Undercover last year.
And that video premiere is through New Noise magazine, so go check that out.
Yeah, I'm excited to get some new music out finally. I feel like everybody's been patiently waiting for some revival jams, and this is the start of a nice rollout we got going on, so stay tuned for some more. Let's see. And then Alesana has announced that they're also doing, how do you say it? Capulet Fest?
Capulet, not catapult. Capulet.
Capulet Fest, which I Set to Kill will also be at. I think it might be 2 days. I don't know if they're on the same days.
Yeah, so I double checked. The festival is, I think, 2 or 3 days, but both Alesana and I Set to Kill are playing on Sunday. I'm pretty sure.
Oh, awesome. There you go.
And that's in Thompson, Connecticut, which I've never been to that part of Connecticut. Or I don't think I've ever done an Alesana show in Connecticut, because they haven't been there since I've worked for them. So we'll see. It'll be good. It'll be good either way.
Do you think Capulet is from Romeo and Juliet, or is there some other reason it's named Capulet?
That would track for a company that's booking Alesana, you know?
Yeah,
that right.
Whole literary.
Just a thought. Like when you said Capulet, I automatically think Romeo and Juliet. It's my theater background. I can't help it.
We get it. We get it, Haley. You're a thespian.
That also tracks.
Yeah, so if you're in the Connecticut area, New England area, go grab some tickets for the festival. There's some other good bands on there, but Sunday is your revival day. 2 of our bands, so and then also we have, if you're looking for some other revival stuff, merch on sale coming up for St. Patrick's Day. And that sale is 35% off all apparel, the 11th through the 18th. So you got a whole week of good deals.
Please buy stuff and get it out of our storage unit.
Yes, because Amanda has to go and organize it, and Haley has to go and organize it all the time. So
it's mostly Haley. Let's be real. Haley is usually the one organizing it.
So that's on the revival front. A little roundup of what's going on in our realm, but there are some also exciting announcements that happen in the scene. Few actually, even today they announced the Sad Summer Fest lineup. There was wasn't there something else dropped?
I don't know if this is the same thing that you were going to mention. Of course, this is all, I did my notes yesterday, and then all this stuff was talked about today. But Sad Summer Fest was announced, and I saw State of the Scene posted that Knocked Loose announced an album that's coming out in May that's featuring Poppy and Chris Motionless. All bands that I don't necessarily listen to that much, truthfully. I have been listening to Poppy a lot, actually, since that
You
Bad
mentioned
Omens song
that
came out.
last. Yeah.
Yeah.
And actually, Bad Omens and Bring Me the Horizon. Not that they've announced any dates in the States together, but I think in the UK they're doing some dates together, or they're doing something together, some show. So a lot of people are like, "Come here and do it," which would be a good pair up. So
Yeah, I'm interested to see with the blow up that, you know, Bad Omens and Sleep Token, and even not that Bring Me the Horizon wasn't already huge, but I've definitely been seeing more of Bring Me the Horizon on TikTok and like with a younger audience. I'm interested to see what's announced for the summer.
Yeah, because we
in
are
this
starting
new, like,
to get
era.
into summer tours. So
Yeah.
excited. I feel like it's gonna be a good summer for music. I know I already have tickets because Blink is going back on tour with Pierce the Veil, so I have tickets for
Ooh,
that. And I just got my Something Corporate tickets today.
there you go. I was gonna let
Yay!
Courtney field
Yes.
this update. Something Corporate's
Yes.
back.
I don't know if you guys are big Something Corporate fans, but I'm Something Corporate, Jack's Mannequin, Andrew in the Wilderness, all of it. I love all of it. So I'm very excited. It is so they were at When We Were Young last year, and that was like the big comeback because they haven't played in, you know, what was the last year you said? Oh, 2010. Yeah.
Yeah,
Since
they came back
2010
last
together.
year at When We Were Young and announced that they're playing for Chord Fest
Yes.
recently, which is in June in Pittsburgh. I'm just
Yeah.
looking at my phone because that's where my
Which
notes
actually, yeah, that's a pretty good lineup, isn't it? For chords. I think I saw that the other day too.
I'm being a bad podcast host.
No, it's okay. I remember seeing it posted, and I should have noted it, but it was.
What I thought was interesting was the Brooklyn Vegan article about it said that this is the first time all 5 original members are touring with the band since 2010.
That'll be a big draw about it, I'm sure.
Yeah, whenever you see even some bands that like we work with have had, not, I don't want to say revolving door, but you know, lineups change and things like that.
Yeah.
I think it's so rare for these like early scene bands to
have their original.
Yeah, exactly. Except for like, you know, like Fall Out Boy has had like the same members forever, and
Right.
you know, but
that 4 Chords Fest is a pretty good lineup. It's 2 days, but it's A Day to Remember, Story So Far, State Champs, 4 Year Strong is on there, All American Rejects, Something Corporate, Motion City, Get Up
yeah,
Kids.
good lineup.
So anyway, so Something Corporate, I'm very excited. So they had I gotta tell you, so they had posted like a little cryptic thing. Everybody figured, so they did When We Were Young. They did a New Year's Eve show. I forget if it was in LA. It was in California though, and stuff. So everybody was like, "Give us a tour! Give us a tour!" Kind of assumed it was coming. So they had posted the other day like a little conference call, 8 p.m. on Zoom, and so it had only let in like 1,000 people, and then it like cut off. But the video that they were trying to play was not working. It was like supposed to be an 11-minute video announcing, you know, the tour. And so Andrew actually got on the Zoom and was talking to everybody, but mics were not muted on anybody unless you chose to mute them. So I just have to say,
Oh, no.
I was screen recording it actually, and I'm gonna have to send it to you guys later. It's long, but like he's sitting there trying to go over tour dates, and then you have people say like, "Shut up! Will you shut up so he can talk?" and blah blah blah. And I was just like, I was having like secondhand embarrassment. I'm like,
I don't know why they
why
thought.
are we yelling? Why are we yelling at Andrew?
So was the Zoom conference call meeting thing like a play on words, like Something Corporate business meeting type thing?
Yeah, so
Okay.
their tour is the out of
That's
office
clever.
tour. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay.
That's
So
clever.
it's the out
I
of
was gonna
office
say,
tour.
There's definitely platforms to do that but you know, I appreciate a good bit. Okay.
Yes.
Just didn't work out very well.
While the original video they wanted to play was attempting to load, I don't know how, because we don't really do Zoom. We do like Google Meets and stuff, but people were drawing on the screen. We're able to like draw on the Zoom screen and stuff. So yeah, it was a little chaotic. I sat through the whole thing because I was like, okay, cool. He did run down all the dates, but you know, everybody just talked. Oh wait, what did you say? What city? What date again? Can you repeat that? And he's just like trying to go through, and he was being so nice and so patient. God bless that man.
So you're telling me that they had a full-on Zoom meeting where fans were responding to them, and they didn't have people going, "What? No, this city? You're not playing 5 minutes from my house?"
Oh yeah. And of course, he's just naming off like U.S. dates. You're not coming to Canada? You're not coming? I'm like, you guys are stressing
come to
me
Brazil.
out.
It's so crazy that they would have it and not have it muted just for the sheer fact of the number of people that are on it. Like,
yeah, they probably would have maybe cut it off a little sooner if they thought of that.
And I think, like, he probably just originally, because it was supposed to just play through a video, I don't think he was supposed to get on it, because he had said, like, oh, this wasn't the plan, sorry, like, because we were waiting, like, he didn't hop on until, like, 10 or 15 minutes after, like, the initial hop-on time.
Yeah.
So it was nice of him to still get on it and not just, like, be like, oh, sorry, didn't work, you know. Showed us his dog. His daughter put the Harry Potter sorting hat on him. So it was fun.
So fun.
Andrew McMahon seems like I've never met him or like really heard anything about him, but he does seem like someone that like is very nice.
Yes, yeah. And another thing that they did do, I know he like put on a video on the Something Corporate Instagram earlier because pre-sale did go on sale this morning, for like fan club, and then there's going to be a Spotify pre-sale and all that. So they did that ticketing thing where you can't resell for more than the face value if you're reselling.
Oh, that's
tickets.
good.
Cool. Yeah.
So I forget what in the video he said, like how they monitor that, but yeah. So it caps off. You can only get your money back for what you paid if you're reselling, because he was talking about scalpers and wanting to prevent it. So shout out to them. At least they're trying. I mean, you can't stop every scalper, but we appreciate the effort. I'll tell you that much.
Yes, for sure.
So I'm excited. I've always been a fan throughout all his bands, so it should be good. I did see him Kaboo Fest, which is in San Diego, a couple years ago, and he did play through like music from all the bands that he's had, which was cool. So
I saw him on tour with Panic at the Disco and Weezer. I think he was as Jack's Mannequin.
Yeah, probably.
Or maybe it was just Andrew. I don't remember. It was before I moved to Raleigh, so it was like 2016. Good show. Panic at the Disco, I hate to admit it, put on a wild set. That was great.
I have seen Panic at the Disco, yeah. I mean,
and it was before we knew that Brendan Urie was Brendan Urie, so
yeah. I was gonna say, whatever you want to say about Brendan Urie, the dude has pipes. Like,
I mean, to an extent, but we'll get to the Panic at the Disco segment. There is a Panic at the Disco segment in this episode. Yeah, well, we'll get there.
We have to work up to it.
Before we move on to that, just two other music releases things. I figured it would be good to mention that Linkin Park is putting out that greatest hits record.
Oh, and they did put out an unreleased song the other day too.
They pulled a Swift and put out an unreleased song.
Oh, yeah.
What is it? It's called Paper Cuts, and it'll be out April 12th. But that new song is already out. I did
Friendly
listen
Fire.
to it. Yeah,
I liked it.
Yeah,
I think anything Linkin Park I'll support regardless. So
it's so good.
I
was just looking at the track list for Paper Cuts, and I'm like, oh, I love every song.
I was never a big Linkin Park person. I feel like I knew a lot of big Linkin Park people, but I was never.
I feel like I got a little later on the train to Linkin Park than like when they were.
I did it because my dad, he's the one that kind of I would say got me into rock music in general. And he would listen to it, and we've seen them live. It was 90 degrees outside. It was hot. It's also the concert. I think it's called Revolution. I think it was like a big like festival thing in Charlotte that they did one year, and My Chemical Romance was also there. and he was wearing his band jacket. He's like, "It's fucking hot in North Carolina," and I'm like, "Take your band jacket off." But we have a lot of their CDs, and even like some of like they have a live CD from one of their concerts.
Yep.
And every time I hear, I can't remember what song it is right now, but every time I hear it, I always think of the live version, and like I insert the live part into the song.
Yeah, there's a couple My Chemical Romance songs like that for me because I had them on my iPod.
Yeah.
I think it's You Know What They Do to Guys Like Us Imprisoned or whatever. And then there's a couple live Medina Lake songs that were on my iPod back in the day that I insert all those little things. But yeah,
that is like Linkin Park's always one like band whenever people are like, "Oh, I don't know if I want to spend the money on tickets." I'm like, "Do it," because I am so mad that I never saw them. I went to the Chester Bennington Memorial show in LA, but I was like so depressed that I never saw them live. And I was like, "So go buy the tickets. Go see your favorite bands live, okay?"
Yeah.
Because you never know when you're not going to be able to, or if the band's going to break up or anything else. So do what you can.
Sorry, neck crack.
That was loud.
Speaking of favorite bands, yeah, I slept weird last night. Sorry.
I want to do it.
Speaking of favorite bands, the Wonder Years put out a new song called Year of the Vulture, and they had done the song for WWE NXT's event Stand and Deliver. I had no idea what those words meant together, but I asked my boyfriend, and he said that WWE NXT is like their minor league development organization type thing, and the Wonder Years did this song for this specific event that ends up kind of being like the promotional song for the week of the event, and I think it's super sick. Someone in the YouTube comments said, "Fuck it, hardcore Wonder Years album," and I was like, yes, exactly, please. It's a lot grungier
that's
than
good
their other
exposure
stuff.
for them for sure.
Yeah, it's I mean, the Wonder Years is like a giant band, obviously, but giant to us who have been listening to this music for decades. Yeah. So that's like some big mainstream exposure for them, which is cool. And it's a crossover of my niche interest and my boyfriend's niche interest. So, bringing people together.
Me and Brandon have like a playlist that we can both add to that we've been, like first dance ideas. And so I did have You in January by the Wonder Years on there. So
that is a very good.
I was like,
I believe I don't remember if it was an interview or a tweet or something, but I know
they have an acoustic one too.
Yeah, they've definitely acknowledged their contribution to the emo wedding scene.
Yeah. That's on there.
He's laughing at me from the couch.
Well, we'll see.
We did for our wedding. We did a safety suit song, and it was our first dance was a safety suit song, and it was they literally coined it as it was the acoustic wedding version of one of their songs, and so we used it. It's called Never Stop. If you haven't heard it, go listen to it. But it was good. Nice. It was a good song.
Nice.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Yes,
any chance to plug my undying admiration for the Wonder Years in hopes that hey, come on our podcast.
Yes.
But
one day we'll get there.
One day I'm gonna stitch this clip with the teaser to us having
and
someone from the Wonder Years.
Bam!
Anyway,
I think that's all the scene updates.
Yeah, as far as what I researched, as the longer that we do these episodes, the more I realize that, especially because we release an episode every other week, and then we record typically on the weeks that we don't have an episode, and it's just impossible to keep every single headline in rotation of what we're talking about. So I'm officially dubbing our scene updates section as scene updates that we care about.
Yeah, true. Or
I don't care
or that are major enough. Yeah, that
right. Because obviously we can keep track of the revival stuff because that's our everyday life. But whatever I see that I think is worth talking about, I will put in the Google Doc. So not that anyone was like Not that anybody cared, but I'm just saying, for my own OCD brain, that's what we're doing here. But
Yes.
on to the main event.
Yes, let's do it.
Stella just popped her head out of it.
Stella's like,
What
how
are you
dare
doing?
you?
Sorry. Anyway,
Industry plants.
Yes.
Who has them? Who
Plants.
wants them?
are they
Who is
real?
them? Are they real? Or is it
We
just a
don't know.
misogynistic term used against women in the music
Mm.
industry? You decide.
Although,
So the reason
you were saying that some of the bands we mentioned, one in particular, is a male fronted band. So
we will get there. I
Okay,
fell
let's
down
see.
a super intense rabbit hole, which it might be kind of hard to talk about if not everyone read the super intense essay on this super niche topic that's like pages and pages long. We'll get there. But
yes,
before we get there,
we'll add it so people can read it
Um,
themselves.
what was I going to say? Yeah, so what made me think of this episode topic is last episode, my boyfriend brought up that his musical hot take is he doesn't care that The Last Dinner Party might be an industry plant. So that got me thinking, hey, I feel like we've mentioned industry plants on this podcast, but we haven't like delved into it. And it's
Yeah.
another one of those like buzzword things that kind of sets me off sometimes.
And I mean, we like bring it up when we're talking about bands or bands that we're interested in, because then you'll see like some discourse like, oh, was this band an industry plant? And then like we'll joke around with it because it's like, you know, my hot take is I don't care if anybody's an industry plant as long as they're good. So
Or
but,
good / not terrible people as far as we
Yeah.
know.
yeah. So like
but-
whatever.
Just to I'm out of breath already. Where was I? Okay,
You want
so
me to give the
a lot of
definition?
yes, Haley is going to give the definition according to
Okay.
Wikipedia of what an
Yes,
industry
ac-
plant is.
According to Wikipedia, industry plant is I don't even know how to say that word. How do you say that word?
Pejorative.
Pejorative. Okay, I've never used that
It's
word.
like
in my life.
derogatory.
I'm
I think.
gonna need
Oh.
I'm gonna need a
Actually,
definition on
hold
the
on,
definition.
hold on a second.
Definition of
Okay,
pejorative.
no, Evan says I'm right. Pejorative is in a sense derogatory, a bad thing.
Okay,
Okay.
is a pejorative used to describe musicians who wow, these words, guys.
The words are wording.
Ostensibly.
Wait, ostensibly.
I promise we're an
Ostensibly.
intelligent
maybe
group of
maybe
people.
We're intelligent
maybe I
people.
should give the definition.
Yes, why don't you read it? My brain can't
Okay.
handle words like that.
Industry plant is a pejorative term used to describe musicians who ostensibly become popular through nepotism, inheritance, wealth, or their connections in the music industry rather than on their own merits. Artists described as industry plants often present themselves as independent and self-made and are alleged to have their own public images manufactured for them by record labels.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Okay.
I will say that, like, I feel like people confuse, like, nepotism and industry plant. I feel like nepotism is a direct, like, family connection is the way I always think of it in my head. Like, your family connects you,
Yeah.
or there's a direct connection in terms of family. Industry plant, like, the way I see it is, yes, connections, but that they, you know, they put you in the spot you're in, but there's not necessarily like a you're not my aunt who's also like an actress that got me a gig, or like, you know,
we're looking
I
at
think
you,
there's a
Emma
little-
Roberts.
I think, so I think I like to like kind of separate them. I feel like some people use the terms, you know,
Yeah, there's
interchangeably, but
well, we'll get to the TikTokification of the
Yeah.
term.
Yeah.
But just to, The Last Dinner Party is not necessarily a scene band, but they are a band that has had a lot of early on success. So my notes on them is they formed in 2021. They signed to a major management company. It's the same company that manages Muse and Disturbed and all these really big bands in 2022. 2022 to 2023, they played live a bunch, opened on a bunch of really big shows. They opened for the Rolling Stones. And
That's
then
crazy.
in
Jesus, that is insane.
they released their debut single "Nothing Matters," which, if you know The Last Dinner Party, that's probably the song that you know, in April of 2023 via Island Records, which is a major record label. So a lot of people on the internet attribute this meteoric rise for this band to being an industry plant, meaning assuming that these musicians knew people in the industry previously, and that's why their work is put on this platform now. But God forbid a couple women are successful. That's an important thing to note, especially in the Wikipedia article, and researching all this. The term industry plant is a lot of the time lobbed at women in the music industry. Lana Del Rey, Billie Eilish, Olivia Rodrigo, which we can get into their backgrounds and what you might consider industry connections and all that. But it is largely considered to be a misogynistic term, and The Last Dinner Party is a band of all feminine presenting people. So do with that what you will. Thoughts?
I don't necessarily have thoughts on The Last Dinner Party in particular as far as like their success. I mean, I feel like in general my thoughts are about industry plants and whether or not it matters. I can understand people's aversion to people that don't have to work as hard for others, that can get to work themselves up, right? I get it, right? Your favorite band worked 10 years before they got on anything big and blah blah blah,
playing local shows and doing their gigs,
right?
And putting in
but I don't necessarily think that makes bands bad or bad people or
untalented.
Like I don't think untalented. Yeah, I don't think that means you shouldn't listen to them because they have these connections that some other people don't. And I get it, right? It's the way of the world. You if you have the connections, you usually do better, and that's just how it is. But I don't necessarily think it means that, like I said, you shouldn't listen to them. Or I know you mentioned in your notes, Amanda, about tramp stamps.
Yeah. Oh no, we'll get to tramp stamps.
Yeah.
Tramp stamps will put a nice little bow on this conversation.
Yeah.
Okay. It's a whole other thing.
But
like for them, for The Last Dinner Party, like it doesn't like. I think it almost reminds me, and we don't have to get into this topic, but it almost reminds me of cancel culture.
Not cancer culture.
Not cancer culture. Cancel culture. Me and the words again, So it reminds me of that in the sense that if someone's called out as an industry plant, sometimes people rally around them in a mob mentality or a mind group think, and it can really affect the band just because they have the connections to be where they are. I don't necessarily think it should be that way.
Yeah, I think you're correct.
They're good people and stuff.
But yeah, right, of course. But the way my note taking on this topic went was I started with The Last Dinner Party, and I thought, hey, The Last Dinner Party isn't necessarily a scene band. Let me find some more relevant examples. So I Googled what are some commonly industry planted alleged artists in pop punk and emo and all these other genres of music. And one, I don't know if this is considered telling tales outside of telling tales outside of school, and if it is, Haley, let me know and I will revise what I'm saying. But one of the comments on the main Reddit thread that I pulled some of these examples from was "Meet me at the altar," and I think the three of us and our team specifically know that is not fact. Meet Me at the Altar is not industry plants, because we had talked to them at one point. They didn't come out the gate with these connections. They are just genuinely talented people who got noticed by a bigger label and now are in Taco Bell commercials. So
Yep.
Are they?
So
yes. Yes, they are.
Oh.
And it's
Yeah.
sick. It's great.
I know,
But
but
just
Yeah.
as an example of people lobbing that term at female artists, it's a generally misogynistic thing. Is that okay to leave in? That
Yes, this
we
way.
talked to them.
okay. Anyway, back to the Reddit thread.
Yes.
Something that hadn't occurred to me is a lot of people consider Panic at the Disco industry plants, which I thought I had never heard until this Reddit thread, and I fell down a rabbit hole. Do you guys know anything outside of the notes that you have already read that I made? Had
No.
you heard of anything about Panic at the Disco being industry plants and Decadence?
Never.
Decadence.
Nope.
Decade? You know what I'm talking about. The Pete Wednesday.
Decay dance?
Yeah.
Decay. Yeah.
Yeah. So
No.
Yeah. No. And I said this before we started recording. I was like, I've never heard that Panic was. I knew that Pete Wentz was friends with Ryan. Is that who it is?
Yeah.
In the band. I knew that they were friends before that, but I didn't know like people ever called them an industry plant.
yeah. So
Break it down for us.
let me make sure I have the name of this website right before I go any
Also,
further.
it
It's
obviously
Scrunchy
didn't matter
Zine.
if they were.
Yeah,
or
it
not,
obviously didn't
they were
matter.
Huge.
Yeah.
But what was I going to say? Okay. So, saw that someone said that Panic at the Disco were industry plants, and I fell down a rabbit hole because I found this multi-chapter, super long essay about the connection between Panic at the Disco and Pete Wentz and how that relationship came to be. The essay, if you are the same brand of emo that we talk about on this podcast, Panic at the Disco, My Chemical Romance, Fall Out Boy, all those bands, this is the type of lore that I had no idea about back in the day, but now going back and researching all of it is fascinating. But when Panic at the Disco was first starting out, the sentence that makes everyone think that they're industry plants is technically, quote unquote, Pete Wentz signed Panic at the Disco before they ever played a show. I don't know if that detail specifically is true, but in interviews and stuff, whenever Panic at the Disco and Fall Out Boy are in the same conversation, it's explained as Panic at the Disco emailed Pete Wentz when they realized he was starting his own imprint / record label, Decadence / Decadance. It's spelled Decadance, but it's a play on the word decadence. And they said that they groveled in his inbox and he signed them. And Pete Wentz kind of says, oh, this guy was talking shit in my comments and I wanted to shit on his band, so I went and listened to his band and thought, hey, these guys are good, I'm going to sign them. And then that's how it happened. And that's the story that we've all come to believe. But in this essay on scrunchyzine.com, which I will link in the description, it pulls receipts and decades old live journal comments and all these things about how Ryan Ross was like this huge Fall Out Boy fanboy. Relatable. But in Pete Wentz's like live journal days, right around the time Fall Out Boy was getting a lot of mainstream attention and got the attention of the, teeny bopper, I'm doing air quotes, teeny bopper fandoms and teenage girls being obsessed with them and things like that. Ryan Ross was allegedly this kind of butthurt fan of Fall Out Boy that's like, it's so weird that girls are freaking out over them. They're really good poets and musicians and blah, blah, blah. And then I guess in a different live journal community called Guys in Tight Pants, I guess, or maybe it was Tight Jeans, Ryan Ross started posting selfies and pictures and girls were like fawning over him. And the person who wrote this essay thinks that Ryan Ross saw that the same girls who were fawning over Fall Out Boy started fawning over him. So he sneakily started putting links to his music in these communities where he knew these fangirls and women would be.
Right.
Thus leading to Pete Wentz finding their music and signing them. So
just sounds
Panic at
like
the Disco.
sounds like he's
industry
getting
plants
his-
or
That just sounds like he's like putting in work to,
He's a yeah. I don't like based on the definition of industry plants. I wouldn't necessarily call it an industry plant.
Yeah.
Based on that information.
Yeah. On the surface
sense.
of if
Yeah.
someone told me that Pete Wentz signed Panic at the Disco before they ever played a show, I'd be like, yeah, that's kind of industry plant vibes. But then if you
Yeah.
dive deeper into this Scrunchy Zine article essay thing, it kind of just sounds like Ryan Ross was like a marketing savvy fanboy that made sure that Pete Wentz saw his music. So
And they didn't
I
suck,
don't think
so.
Panic and at the time.
Well,
all personal beef aside, I mean, they were a defining band at that time. So it's like hard to look back and be like, even if it came out that they were an industry plant, who would care? Because it's like,
but
you
yeah.
know? Or like now to say that, like nobody would care.
Right.
I guess now they're not even a band, so I guess nobody really would care. But
Right.
at the time, I don't know, like it's interesting. It's also interesting the time difference because we're talking about like Live Journal and stuff. And then now the industry plants are anybody who blows up on TikTok, immediately people are like industry plant, industry plant, industry plant.
Right.
I was just gonna say I don't think people cared about that back in the day.
Yeah.
Like it seems like it's obviously a newer thing.
Yeah, to backtrack a little bit, the term industry plant seemed to gain popularity around the 2010s, mostly in the hip hop and rap community. Which
because they used to
I
say like
have
Lil
no
Wayne and
experience
stuff.
with.
I know that Lil Wayne they used to claim, or people used to say, was an industry plant.
Wikipedia said that Megan Thee Stallion is another one that people claim as an industry plant, but I also think that
Mhm.
Megan Thee Stallion is like a recent female artist who, like, you know, the TikTokification of the term industry plant, like, does that really hold
And
any weight?
I think, like I said, the viral aspect, because now if you blow up on TikTok, because someone else you had mentioned in your notes is Olivia Rodrigo, too, female. Hey, wearing my Olivia sweatshirt. Interesting. And also shout out to her for doing proceeds from all her ticket sales and putting them right back into abortion rights. Let's go. Anyways, because I like think of it and people are like industry plant. I'm like, okay, this girl came from parents who were a teacher and her dad's a psychiatrist.
Well,
like
that's where the
you know what I
lines
mean?
get
And then,
the lines get
nepo,
kind of
like-
hairy there
yeah,
because people seem to think when they call her an industry plant, they say, "Oh, she was on a Disney show. She's not an industry.
Yeah.
She was on a Disney show. She's not actually talented. She just Disney music, whatever."
Yeah.
I think Olivia Rodrigo is great, but I included Fall Out Boy, Panic at the Disco. Well, let me rephrase that. I included Panic at the Disco in this because I thought it was a good example of a band who, on the surface, if someone just threw that sentence at you that Pete Wentz signed them without any prior knowledge, you would assume, yeah, that's an industry plant. But if you dive deeper into it, you kind of realize that a lot of people who don't really have a lot of experience with A&R or finding bands or how the process of releasing music and a rollout and an image and all that stuff works wouldn't necessarily think, you know, that there's all this background stuff to it and there's so many other moving parts to it, you know?
definitely. And it also, I had a thought. Hold on, it was there, festering in my mind. If you think back to like whatever, when Panic at the Disco and stuff, I feel like it would have been easier to industry plant then than it is now, because you wouldn't have been able to find out as much. But now people want to point fingers more now, because like
Well,
you'd be able to find out anything. Like,
speaking of finding out, this is a good segue. Speaking of finding out and diving into people's pasts, the viral rise and fall of tramp stamps. I know Courtney knows tramp stamps.
yes,
I know Courtney knows tramp stamps. Haley, do you know tramp stamps?
We had
We've
mentioned
talked about them.
on team,
Mhm.
stuff.
So-
But that was crazy
I'd heard of
because we were following it like as it was as the rise and fall was happening.
Yeah. So, and if you're listening to this, you probably know who they are / were too. But at least for me, I knew the term industry plant, but I didn't really hear it thrown around as much on TikTok until this
then.
band happened. So, at least as far as my memory is concerned, this is when the TikTokification of industry plant started. But on the surface, Tramp Stamps was a band of 3 women who all had different color hair and a generally punk aesthetic, posting covers on TikTok that eventually led to them putting out their own music. And I remember when they were teasing their music, I was excited about it, and I was like, yeah, women making like feminist in your face music, like I'm totally all about this. This is so cool. And then the music came out, and my notes say that's when shit hit the fan. I didn't think it was good. I don't know if anybody thought it was good. But when the music came out and it wasn't well received, people started diving into these girls' backgrounds. People found that the singer and the drummer were signed to Dr. Luke, famous Kesha abuser, his publishing company, Prescription Songs. So they were professional songwriters already and were working in the industry. And the guitar player, I just remember them by the colors of their hair. But the guitar player, the one with the blue hair, was a songwriter, producer who had a bunch of songs in TV circulation and on commercials and stuff like that. So people immediately started calling them industry plants, which didn't make sense to me, because you would think that if they were industry plants, it would have gone over better.
Yeah. Also, do people not realize that, like, a lot of musicians also have other jobs within music?
That was what I was...
Yeah.
I doubt anyone who, like, followed me on TikTok that long ago would be listening to this, but if you somehow are, I made a bunch of videos about that at the time. I was like, Tramp Stamps doesn't suck because they're industry plants, because music doesn't make that much money and musicians need to work at some point. But they do suck because their songs are bad.
Yeah.
But long story short, Tramp Stamps, the band,
quick
got
rise and fall.
Yeah.
Right.
People immediately labeled them as industry plants because of their background in the industry. And the band got bullied off the internet, but the 3 of them individually still are active and make music and make decent music, frankly. But people really thought that when these like weird auto-tuned kind of punk, very Youngblood, another one that's often labeled as an industry plant, very TikTok emo music, came out, people really thought that their image and their message of feminism and making their own imprint called Tampon Should Be Free and the colored hair and everything was like a very heavily manufactured thing because they had already worked in music. Thoughts?
I think that's like a little interesting. Like, that's where I was saying, like, people want to use nepotism, industry plant, like all these words, and not actually use them in the way that there should be, because it's like, just because these people worked in music and know the ins and out of the business or the industry and can utilize that and for themselves doesn't mean they're industry plants. Just because someone goes viral or whatever, and then as we do on our end, if we see someone go viral, we immediately, like, our eyes are on them, and that's what big labels do. That's what they did with Olivia Rodrigo. She went viral, even though she was already on Disney, but, like, her stuff was going viral. She got picked up, and then they throw a bunch of money at her.
Yeah.
Into her, and that's, like, yeah, then she's going to blow up. She has all the money behind her in the world. Obviously.
Well, but I think
So
that's the argument that a lot of these people have, is like, she has all the money in the world, she's not actually talented. Which that is not what I'm saying. I think Olivia Rodrigo is great. But I think the bottom line of the Tramp Stamp story is that if they were true industry plants, they probably would have had a better trajectory than they did.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I agree.
So
Like, I feel like it's so strange to me that, I mean, that people can be like, let's say they were working, they knew each other, they got put together by the outside forces, and that's how they kind of got started and stuff. But it's so interesting to me that people will dive into these people's lives, like
Oh yeah.
unfortunately, and we've talked about this when it was who was it that we were like, maybe this was a stunt, but maybe it wasn't.
the birth certificates. Is that what we're talking about?
Slate
Yeah.
Kogan.
Yeah. Like, it's just wild to me, like, because of maybe you don't like something, or
Yeah.
you're not, it's not your cup of tea, or something, there's something off about it, that you feel like the need to like dive in, and like, again, mob mentality. They got bullied off the internet, and now granted they're doing their own thing now, and they're still doing stuff and things, but like, why?
I agree. It's
Just
like,
don't listen
I
to
like
their
to do
music.
some art. I like to do some like arts and crafts in my free time, not like deep dive into someone's personal life, but like get a
I know, I
hobby.
don't-
Yeah.
I don't know, like
I think
I mean,
the
unless there's like something bad and you're like trying to
Yeah.
like figure that out. Obviously,
Right.
like I like to know if
the
I don't want to support shitty people, but
yeah.
Right.
just because you don't like someone's like song that they put out, it's a weird vibe to then go and like deep
Yeah.
dive into their life.
I
For
think
sure.
the Wikipedia article on Tramp Stamp specifically said Marissa, the singer, was interviewed, and they brought up the topic of them being called an industry plant, and she said something to the effect of like, "I wish this shit was somebody else's fault." So,
Yeah, if you think about it, if you were an industry plant and whatever, if it was good, you would have been, nobody would have cared because you would have been having hits out.
right.
And
Maybe
and-
they probably still would have
but,
cared if
yeah.
these people were calling
Cared,
them
but,
industry
like-
plants because they
But
suck.
they'd
they
still
probably
be
would
here
call them
making
industry plants.
money. Yeah.
That's true.
But that brings us to the overarching theme / question / hypothesis, whatever thesis that I had was: one, does it matter if someone's an industry plant? And two, can industry plants truly exist in the day and age of TikTok can industry plants truly exist in the age of TikTok virality, and people can deep dive, and everyone knows everything about everyone and has constant access to these people, and you can
I think people would
blow up
figure
for
it
any
out.
reason,
Like I said, like it would have been easier back. Oh, sorry. It would have been easier to be doing this and getting away with it, like back in the live journal days and the MySpace. But like now, it's like, yeah, people will figure it out. People will find
But what
out
I'm saying
they'll find the truth.
is, in an age where people go viral for random things all the time, people who aren't no one that I'm talking about, I'm not like shaming anyone, but people who aren't necessarily talented go viral for things in music all the time. Like, does that make them an industry plant? Since if they have this sudden fame and success, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
No, I don't think
I would
so.
say, I mean, to that question, there's two parts to it. I would say, does it matter being an industry plant? I personally, for me, I don't think it matters. Like, if you're talented or whatever, and you maybe have your connections and you got, good for you. That's good for you. But and good for the person that had to work 10 years and play local shows and sling merch and stuff to get to where they are too. Like, I don't think we should put down people just because of their connections as far as industry plants goes. And on the other hand, as far as TikTok virality, or however you said it, I think it would be hard for them, for people that are labeled industry plants, to get by, like the people that are like looking for them. I feel like people are out there just looking for these people and these bands, and it's hard because immediately when someone goes viral, people are going to start looking at it and looking into it and all of those things. So if you are going to be one, you're probably going to get found out, like Courtney said, and whether or not you're going to be strong enough and also have the talent behind what you're doing in order to stick it out, that's completely up to the band. But it's hard. I mean, I feel like social media in general can be hard, not only for industry bands, but also just normal bands, because you always have people that have opinions.
Oh yeah, I think it would be hard to manufacture a true industry plant nowadays. While everyone
and to give it
has access
longevity
to everyone.
too. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? Like to do that, it's like at some point, if you're gonna have longevity, even if you were a quote unquote industry plant, you got to be good and you got to have like the smarts behind it and like be a good business person if you're gonna be a musician, like all this other stuff. Like otherwise, so it's like even if you are, it's you still have to at some point put work and talent behind it, because otherwise it's gonna fade out. So
There you go.
there you go. I always
For real though, if you are the same brand of emo that I am, / had a Tumblr / was into like the emo trilogy, the emo trinity back in the day, and like reading up on that lore, y'all should read this essay about Pete Wentz and Panic at the Disco, because it is a very interesting read. I will put it in the description.
So like it's also funny because now I'm just thinking about like industry plants and like people's definition of it, and then I'm like thinking of like Josie and the Pussycats, like the movie, because I'm like that's what like when people first, like when I first started hearing the term thrown around more, I was like, that's like what I thought, like people were just putting these bands together to like sell products and stuff, like not actually, you know what I mean, like not form a band,
which
like,
I think that would be a more accurate definition.
Yeah. Like that's what I think, that they're like trying to, because that's the whole movie is based on that. Like, so that's my thought, not just, you know, people that get noticed by a label and have a whole bunch of money thrown at them, but that there's like a different ulterior motive is my thought. If someone's gonna be an industry plant, there's an ulterior motive to it, like behind the band, or at least in my mind that's what I would think of when I first started hearing the term. So now I'm just like, now it just gets thrown around, and anybody who gets big and people think don't deserve it, they're just gonna call an industry plant. So
exactly, and that is the point I was getting to with this whole topic. Let us know who you think is an industry plant, and I will tell you that you're probably wrong. But on that note, are y'all ready for your songs of the week?
Yes. Yep.
Mine's easy. We already talked about it. It's the new Wonder Years song, "You're the Vulture."
Nice.
So, go ahead, Haley.
Very good. I'm gonna pick "Neon Grave" by Dayseeker. Never really got into Dayseeker until I heard this song, and then I kind of wanted to listen to more. I just love his voice. Shaylee's voice is just so good. It's so good. But that's my song.
and
Courtney?
I'm gonna keep on brand for this episode, and I woke up in a car, something corporate.
Oh, nice.
Hey.
I thought you were going to put an industry plant in there, but...
Could have. I was like, I feel like I've done an Olivia Rodrigo song, I think, so on the playlist somewhere.
She's really been growing on me lately since Chapel Roan's opening. I don't know if her stint on the tour is over yet, but anyway, Chapel Roan, who I've talked about at length on the podcast, is opening for Olivia Rodrigo. So now a lot of Chapel Roan TikTok content is crossing over with Olivia Rodrigo content. So now Olivia Rodrigo is really growing on me. I get it. Totally get it.
Still hoping I can get my tickets for, I think she comes to Boston April. We'll see. Gotta wait it out. I gotta wait it out. Let's see. You know.
I'm trying to think if there's anything else we should mention. Go stream Gold Steps. Buy merch. Come see me on tour in Latin America. Maybe. With Alisana. Even though that's not for a couple months, and I will be on a podcast episode before that. Any final thoughts?
No.
No, I don't think so. Let people be them. Let them do them.
There
That's
you
all I'll
go.
say.
We don't care if you're an industry plant as long as you're giving us good music. There you go.
There you go. Good podcast.
Well, we will talk to everybody on the next episode. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Thanks for tuning in to this episode of It's You, Me, and the Scene, brought to you by Revival Reportings. New episodes released every other Monday, and be sure to keep up with us on all socials at It's YMatsPod. That's ITSYMATSPOD.